but I need to do a second cheers because I have an additional guest alongside me. Not only is he an additional guest, is a new face on this programme, he has also had the most glamorous choice of drink that anyone has ever selected when the Dewberry Tavern has ever been opened. If you look at that, John Cleese, welcome. Describe to the viewers what it is that you're drinking.
It's a margarita, but it's made not with tequila, but with mezcal, which is a slightly smoky kind of tequila, and it's the best taste.
Well, cheers to that.
Well, I'm very touched because I saw Andrew Doyle yesterday for dinner.
Cheers.
And I ordered this, and when I got to the studio, I was given it. I thought that was very thoughtful.
And how many marks out of 10 would you give the producer that's made that for you tonight? Always thinking about it.
We're talking about 8.5, I think.
8.5. Well, there you go. Whoever made that, if it all goes wrong... You can tell he's an
esteemed guest, because we get a pint of lager.
Yeah, they get a pint.
What's this thing about choice and offer?
Yeah.
I know, they just get... Well, I know. Let's move on. Let's get a hold of this before the
have to
wheels
have dinner
fall
with
off.
the producer the night before.
Well, we haven't been invited.
Sir, John Cleese, the reason that you are keeping me company tonight is not just for the free margarita, but you are, of course, joining the GB News family.
I am.
The Dinosaur Hour is your programme.
Yes,
Tell us more.
Richard,
well, they came to me a few months ago and they made me the most extraordinary offer that's ever been made to anyone in the history of television.
Right.
They said, would you like to do 10 shows? You can do whatever you like. Can you imagine the BBC doing that?
No, I cannot.
Well, you know, they say, well, subject to the Committee A, and then after Committee A have approved it, you go to Committee... They said you can do anything, and I had no interference of any kind. It's been joyful, and I've been able to do one or two things I wanted to try on television.
Like what? Can you give us any hints?
Well, one of them is this kind of setup. I mean, this is now the standard setup for television. And it's good for this programme. But for a lot of programmes, you want something a bit different. So I've got people sitting in armchairs talking to each other much closer, because if you and I are talking like this, it becomes more interesting and intimate than if I'm back here sort of slightly shouting at you.
It does.
But this is the sort of thing that designers don't understand, because designers, as you know, well, they become designers basically because they can't read. And
but
that's why there's no signage in hotels. That's why, because designers don't like signage.
Your set is a castle, actually.
Yes.
If I am led to
it's
believe
insane.
correctly.
It's a huge castle that was built, I think it was 1266 it was built. No, maybe it was 1166, because King John was involved. But they found a wonderful room there, and they set it up as a sort of slightly lunatic gentleman's club, and we have a lot of cats on the programme.
Gentleman's club in the castle. Are women allowed in?
Oh, yes.
Oh, he's a bit too excited by that prospect.
No, we got lots. We got 3 nuns.
Oh, have you now? Interesting. And how has it been becoming part of the GB News family? Good experience?
Well, they're a very nice bunch. I never worked with a nicer team. I mean that.
Have you got your fingers crossed? Your legs are not crossed? I can vouch for that.
It's a lovely atmosphere out there, because I think humans are much happier when they're working in smaller groups. And when it gets vast, you go to the BBC now, these vast buildings, nobody seems to know who anyone is, you know what I mean? Mm. And it's much more personal here, because everybody knows everyone. If you want to join an organisation, join them at the beginning.
Yes.
Because that's when everyone knows what's going on. And then as it gets bigger and departmentalised, it becomes less personal.
So when can viewers catch your programme then? When's it going to be aired?
I think it's Sunday, the 29th of October.
What time?
9 o'clock.
Good.
Just so we can use bad language.
I knew the answers to that, by the way, so I was pleased that you did too, because that is good. You passed the first test. And listen, you are not slowing down at all, because it is not just GB News and the Dinosaur Hour that you're doing, which I cannot wait. I've had a sneak preview as to who some of the guests are, which we're not mentioning on this programme tonight. We're going to keep it a secret. Those details will follow imminently. But I've seen the cast list, and it's fabulous, so I'll definitely be watching.
And it's slightly odd, which I like very much, because it means we're not taking ourselves too seriously, you know.
Oh, well, if you want to know who is on John's programme, Sunday at 7 o'clock, that is when we will be unveiling. No.
What?
I'm saying that you're unveiling.
Talking about the one next week, yes.
We're unveiling your guests at 7.
This Sunday.
And then you will be unleashed at 9 o'clock to the nation the following Sunday.
2 days after
wait.
my 84th birthday.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's my birthday on Monday, actually.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. I digress, though, because you
So wait a moment, are you a Libra or a Scorpio?
Libra.
Oh, yeah.
Not a very balanced one, though, I must confess. I think something's gone wrong there in my wiring.
Very unbalanced.
Yeah, I do. So you say that you're approaching 84 and you are absolutely not slowing down. It's the Dinosaur Hour we've just been talking about. And I want to show you one of the funniest clips of your previous work that I think I've ever seen. Let me remind my viewers of this, what I would say, hilarious moment.
I want to be a woman. From now on, I want you all to call me Loretta.
What?
It's my right as a man.
Well, why do you want to be Loretta, Stan?
I want to have babies.
You want to have babies?
It's every man's right to have babies if he wants them.
But you can't have babies.
Don't you oppress me.
I'm not oppressing you, Stan. You haven't got a womb. Where's the fetus going to gestate? You're going to keep it in a box?
See, I find that hilarious. And John, I don't know if the microphones was up there, but John was also laughing. And this is the thing, I find that hilarious. That is, of course, the life of Brian.
And you know, it was written in 1987.
I thought it was early.
No, 77.
Yeah,
77.
I was going to say, I thought it was early. I've done my research.
45 years ago, so it was pretty prescient, wasn't it?
And you're bringing Life of Brian back as a stage play.
As a stage show. I've been working on it today.
And what I find quite interesting is that scene that I've just played there. As I understand it, a couple of actors have said when they was reading the scripts that they were not massively comfortable with that scene.
Well, it was worse than that. We had a read-through in New York with some very good, very distinguished actors who'd won Tonys and all this kind of thing. And at the end of the read-through, they said, it's a wonderful script, but you can't do that. And I said, what do you mean we can't do that? They said, you won't get away with it. And I said, well, what's going to happen? Are they going to burn the theatre down? And we are going to do it.
Oh, so that is in.
Oh, yes. It was only a bit of misreporting because no one in British journalism checks anything.
Details. Well, I'm on my brief. I've got the details, so that's good. So we can confirm that Loretta, Stan Loretta,
yeah.
that
and
is
you
still
know
in.
why she was called Loretta?
Why?
Marty Feldman's wife.
Ah, right. Well, Loretta, I love that scene. What about the crucifixion at the end?
Yes.
Is that still going to be there? Or?
I don't think so. I don't think we should do that because we did it 45 years ago and it was very, very shocking and funny. But 45 years later, it doesn't carry exactly the same punch. So I decided that I ought to try and change it. Michael Palin said to me, don't. He said our audience would expect it. And I said, Michael, what was the last time that Python did what their audience expected?
Well, that is a very interesting point. And Fawlty Towers, lots of people have contacted us about Fawlty Towers. You're also bringing that back as well.
Well, my daughter and I have started writing that, but it's only a glint in the eye. Unfortunately, they made a sort of press release much, much too early, so everyone got excited about it before it really existed.
This is your daughter Camilla?
Yes, that's right.
All right, so
She's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, I was reading about you and saying about how much fun you was having writing it together with it. There was someone else involved as well. So we're not having a new Fawlty Towers.
Yes, you are.
Oh, we are.
It'll be set probably in the Caribbean, and we'll be making it probably in a year's time at most. Maybe we'll do the pilot before that. In the meantime, we're doing a musical of Fish Called Wanda and Life of Brian, and Camilla and I have written a very funny film script which we think we're going to make, which is called Lookalikes, and it's all about the Hollywood lookalikes. But the lookalikes are played by the original stars.
Right.
So that Arnold Schwarzenegger is playing his own lookalike.
Right.
And keeps hurting himself.
Is Basil still a hotelier in the...
Well, no, he sold the hotel, I think. Okay. My daughter and I are still arguing, but I think he sold the hotel and has come to live with his daughter.
Right.
I mean, I've got to say...
Divorced from Sybil, presumably.
What?
Divorced from Sybil.
Well, yes. Well, I think it's funnier if she's dead.
Clive?
Otherwise, she'll be around. You know what I mean?
One of my viewers...
If Camilla's mother in the show is somebody different, then she can turn up later, which just gives us more comic possibilities.
Well, one of my viewers, Clive, I mean, lots of viewers have written and asking about the new Fawlty Towers, so you guys have had your question answered there. Clive says, what's John's opinion on the PC brigade, he calls it, going after some of your back catalogue? He's mentioning Fawlty Towers as well.
I think there's a good part to woke and a bad part.
What's the good part?
The good part is that it's a good idea to be kind and nice to people. And some people think that's all it is. And there's also quite a threatening side, almost a totalitarian side. I mean, I want to discuss woke issues on the program I just made on the Dinosaur Hour. And we couldn't get people on because they would say, one woman said, even to discuss it it's wrong even to discuss it. In other words, they just want us to accept all their ideas and they're not prepared to discuss them.
Do you think, can I just ask, John, do you think that Fawlty Towers, if it were written today, particularly the episode about that classic episode with the Germans, for example...
Yes, but there's no problem with
Would that be commissioned today, do you think?
Probably not. No, because it would go from committee to committee to committee at the BBC and somebody would object to it. So, because it's all their strength comes in their ability to get people fired. And one university professor from Oregon told me that more people have been fired during the woke period than were fired during McCarthyism in the 50s. And they go after people, and an awful lot of people are very, very scared of them, which is why people with higher profile have to discuss it, but they're not frightened of getting fired. Most people are very frightened of getting fired, and the people who employ them are frightened of getting fired. And then that end of woke is not very nice. And it's also psychologically unsound, because young people suffer so much now with anxiety and depression. And the very therapies that work best, the cognitive behavioral therapy, which is really helping young people, is the opposite principles that are laid out by the woke extremists. It's harmful in those cases.
Daryl says, do you agree that the smallest minority is the individual? Deep and meaningful questions on dupes. What can I say?
I don't know how to say that. It's rather interesting, and yes.
There you go, Daryl. Interesting question, but he says yes. Bruce says, can you ask John Cleese why he told Douglas Adams that 42 was the funniest number?
Well, it is the funniest number.
Why?
Well, Graham Chapman and I, when we were at Cambridge, we wrote a parody of a sermon, a Church of England sermon, and at the end, out of the blue, the vicar says, hymn 42. And Graham and I argued for a long time about which was the funnier number, but there's something about the number 42. And then Douglas Adams used it in Hitchhiker.
Well, there you go, and you see, it is indeed making him chuckle. I'm trying to whiz through as many of your viewer questions. Eric says, if you were ever going to found a political party, what would you call it?
Silly party.
The silly party. Well, there you go. Wendy says, what's your opinion on the current state of the comedy scene, given the current culture we seem to be living in?
Well, I think it's very sad that the BBC 1990s produced, I was reading the list the other day, 31 really good comedies were on the BBC during that period, 10 years, and they were all good, you know. And now the comedy, and I don't know because I don't watch much television anymore, but I ask a lot of friends, and cab drivers and all that lot, and they all say there's nothing funny on. And it's because the people in charge have no idea how to control comedy, or rather, they have no idea how to nurture it because they try to control it because they think they know what they're doing. And my experience, many years in TV, is that the executives very, very seldom know what they're doing. But it didn't matter in the old days because they allowed the talented people to get on with it. And then, as Griff Rhys-Jones wrote about 20 years ago, then they themselves, the executives, wanted to become the stars. And that's when all the creativity went downhill.
Very quickly, because look, at time flies, doesn't it, when you're having fun? Colin says, what comedy has most influenced you?
Goon Show.
Yeah, there you go. Kitty says, Michelle, this is not a question, but please can you tell Mr. Cleese thank you so much for all of the laughs that he has brought all of us all over the years.
I've made an extraordinarily valuable contribution to
modest.
this
Look
civilization.
at not only the most sophisticated drinker, but also one of the most modest men I've ever had on my panel. By the way, we can't finish.
I'm proud of my modesty.
Time is almost gone, but before we go, can you just give a shout out to Paul Embry's young son, who is a massive fan of yours, is watching tonight.
Nick, I'm delighted that you... And please tell all your friends, because all the young people don't know about Monty Python.
Oh, his son does.
Yeah, but they don't. When we did the show at the O2 and parents took their children, the children said, this is funny, why didn't we not know about it? And the answer is because the BBC haven't put it out for over 20 years.
Well, there you go. Bring it all back.
It's compulsory in my house.
Quite right.
Well, look,
I think to make something that gets families laughing together is great.
Every good pub has strict closing times, and mine is no different. So very sadly, that is all we've got time for. Thank you to the team. You can't see what he's doing next to me. Thank you. I am off next week, everybody. I'll see you the following week. Have a good one. And thank you to the man, to the legend. Have a good weekend. I don't know what he's doing. No idea. Goodbye.